Hello and welcome to Nights at the Game Table. We're here again at Pat's Games in Austin, Texas. I'm Kevin.
I'm Aryeh.
And today we're going to be talking you through the 5 guild mechanics you're going to be seeing in the upcoming Guilds of Ravnica set.
To keep up to date with everything at Nights at the Game Table, all you have to do is click subscribe and then hit that tiny little notification button next to it, so every time we upload a new video, YouTube will be sure to let you know.
Aryeh, what's first?
I think we're going to start with the Selesnya.
The Selesnya, who have got CONVOKE.
Yes.
And this is a throwback to the original Ravnica set and the only one that's repeating, is that right?
That is correct. So CONVOKE originally showed up in the first Ravnica, which is now 2 Ravnicas ago.
Making me feel old here. That's what I actually remember.
Yeah, so CONVOKE is a returning mechanic that's from the first Ravnica set. And basically what CONVOKE does is it makes your spells cheaper because you can tap creatures to pay for your spells.
Okay. What are some of our standout cards, or what card would you like to tell us you're particularly excited about seeing for this set?
For me, I think March of the Multitudes is probably sort of the flagship CONVOKE card. I believe it is a mythic in the set, so it's kind of supposed to be one of those cards that's right up front as being one of the faces of the set. And March of the Multitudes is X, white, green, green, and it makes X, however many you can pay for, 1/1 tokens. So it can make a lot of tokens. And when we've seen these kind of cards in Standard previously that are sort of like these sort of X spells, a lot of the time they can get really out of hand. In particular with this one, the fact that you can tap your existing creatures to create even more creatures, it has the potential to do quite a lot.
And as an instant, it can also throw off your opponent's attacks or even a lethal swing back.
Yeah, I think you're going to see it in combat quite a bit in Limited. That's where you're really going to see it in combat quite often. I think in Constructed, you're going to see it as an instant more often at the end of a turn, where your opponent might think they're getting slightly ahead on board, and then all of a sudden you just play you get like 7 or 8 tokens or some high number of tokens, and now all of a sudden you're attacking them back, you're winning the race. So I think that's kind of one of the flagship CONVOKE cards. There are also some creatures in the set that have CONVOKE, but I think that this one being that splashy mythic, being right up front, I think this is going to be one of the big ones for sure.
Nice, nice. All right, tell us about the Boros Legion. What have they got in this set?
So Boros has Mentor, which I think is probably the best ability in terms of Limited, simply because a lot of the other abilities care about how you're casting a spell or the way you cast a spell, but Mentor cares about the actual battlefield itself, where a creature in combat, a creature with Mentor when it attacks, will trigger. It can target a creature with lesser power than itself and place a +1/+1 counter on it. So Mentor...
That's permanent.
Permanently, yes. So that creature will get the benefit of that counter for the rest of the game or as long as it stays in play. And that, to me, makes Mentor probably a stronger mechanic for Limited, just because it's actually improving your board presence each and every turn. Whereas, like we talked about, CONVOKE has some good things going on for it as well, but it's not like something that specifically makes your creatures stronger and stronger turn by turn, and Mentor definitely does that.
Okay, tell us about a card that's got this mechanic you're interested in playing with.
I think the best one is Legion Warboss.
Legion Warboss. That's a goblin, right?
It is a goblin.
We like goblins.
Yes, and it is. If you can follow that goblin's history through time, because it's actually the same goblin apparently that we've been seeing on cards for years and years and years. In the previous Ravnica, it was Legion Loyalist. And before that, I believe it was like Goblin Recruit. It's apparently the same guy.
He's grown up.
Yes, so every time he's getting bigger and bigger, and now he is a Legion Warboss. So he's one of the leaders of the Boros Guild, and he's a 3-mana 2/2 that has Mentor that each turn makes a 1-mana 1/1 Goblin token. So I think this is a card you're going to see all over the place. It's going to be in mid-range decks. It's going to definitely be in aggro decks, but maybe it could even be in control decks as a sideboard option. I mean, if your opponent's siding out a bunch of their removal spells, it's just a 1-card combo that probably can win the game on its own.
I mean, it's going to, 2 damage, 4 damage, 6 damage, 8 damage. That's a dead opponent, right?
Yeah, it's even more because the turn it comes in, it makes a haste creature. So the turn it comes in, it deals 1. The next turn, it deals 5. So that's already, because it's 2 from itself, a 2/2 it's mentoring, and the additional new 1/1. So it's 1 damage, then it's 5 damage, and then it just goes up and up and up. So it's really like a 4-turn clock by itself or something.
Could you even use this defensively and block with those 1/1s?
So you can't block with the newest 1/1 that comes in. So the newest 1/1 that shows up every turn has to attack. But if you have other ones laying around from an earlier turn, those can block. So yeah, it could potentially kind of affect both sides. But I think
fringe case.
I think the name War Boss might indicate you that he is going to battle more often than not.
Not really interested in producing chump blockers for you.
Yeah. Legion War Boss is trying to turn sideways. His goblins are trying to turn sideways. He's really interested in definitely getting in the red zone for sure.
For sure. He's also going to combine with other cards with this mechanic, right? Because you said attack for 1, attack for 5. If you've already got a mentor out, then you can boost that 1/1 straight away the turn you drop him.
Yeah, and I think when we're looking at other cards with Mentor, we can kind of look at both ends of the spectrum, where you have the 1-drop, which would be Goblin Banneret, that is a 1/1 with Mentor, which sounds very bad. How are you going to mentor another creature? But you can actually pay mana to pump it to a 3/1, which then allows it to mentor a 2/2, like Legion War Boss. And then on the flip side of that is, I think, the largest mentor creature, which is Aryeh. Which I think we discussed in another of our clips, but Aryeh is a 2/5 that can pump other creatures or herself, where she can mentor creatures as a 4-power creature. So there's a wide array of mentor creatures at different costs, allowing, as you said, potentially to have a Boros deck with 2 or 3 mentor creatures in play at the same time, all pumping each other or pumping tokens. You could do a lot of damage pretty fast, yeah.
So now we're going to move on to Golgari, who have got Undergrowth, which is kind of like an X value. Undergrowth gives you X for however many creature cards you've got in your graveyard, and all of the cards do something different based on their X. For example, you might kill a creature, or you might make a creature bigger, each dependent on the number of creature cards in your bin.
Yeah, so this mechanic's a little different from some of the others because it varies based on which card it's on. So like one of the cards I think that we can look at is Molderhulk, which is a card that costs 1 mana less for each creature card in your graveyard. So even though it looks on the surface like a 9 mana 6/6, in reality in most decks that are going to cast it, they're going to be trying to pay maybe 2 or 3 mana for that 6/6 because they're going to try to get a lot of creature cards into their graveyard. This is one of the harder mechanics to evaluate just because so many of the cards are so different. But the one thing they have in common is that you need to have a lot of creatures in your graveyard for them to count, for them to be as strong as they can be. Is that easy to accomplish? I'm not so sure.
It depends on the format, right? Like if you go back to Legacy, you get access to the old Golgari mechanic Dredge.
Yeah.
And then your graveyard's just going to be full on turn 0.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially the cards like Necrotic Wound, like there are cards in this set that definitely play very well with the older Dredge cards from the original Ravnica. At the same time, though, like I don't know how easy it is in Standard to get a ton of creatures in your graveyard quickly when you're being attacked by like a Legion War Boss or something. It seems like kind of an awkward trade-off, you know, like your opponent's playing to the board and you're sort of doing some graveyard stuff. So I think that's going to be a wait and see. I think that this mechanic has potential to be very powerful. Like a card like Molderhulk, I mean, we've seen these kind of like cost reduction on creatures be very, very, very strong. I mean, even now, like Gurmag Angler was just a common with Delve, is one of the most played legacy creatures. Yeah. So, I mean, whenever you're looking at cost reduction mechanics or inexpensive cards that potentially have a very strong effect, it's always interesting to look at. I'm just not sure how easy it is to get 5, 6, 7, 8 creatures in your graveyard quickly.
Let's move it on along and take it to Izzet, who've got Jump Start.
Yeah, I think, to me at least, Izzet is like my favorite guild because Izzet is about, my favorite card I think is like Ogre Savant. It's like being smart but also being good with your hands because that's Niv Mizzet's whole personality in the set is like this very intelligent, brilliant dragon who also likes to, like create new technologies for war and things like that. So Izzet to me is just always very cool, and I think that their interpretation in this set of a mechanic for Izzet is really, really, in my opinion, the best of all the designs.
So Jump Start is kind of like Flashback. You get to replay a card from your graveyard and remove it from the game, but in addition to paying its regular cost, you also discard a card. Aryeh, is it good?
I think this is a very strong mechanic. anything in Magic that allows you to get value from when you're flooding out is to me just enormous. And mechanics like this make Limited a lot more fun to play, because if you have a card like Radical Idea, very simple card, 1 and a blue mana, draw a card, you know, that's solid. I mean, that's not anything too exciting. But let's say you're playing a game of Limited, and on turn 2, you draw a card with Radical Idea. Now on turn 7, you drew 2 or 3 too many extra lands this game, your opponent's playing spells, you're flooding out, you can pitch one of those lands and just draw another card. So it's kind of just having every single card that has this ability be almost like a 2-for-1. Yes, you have to discard a card. Technically, that's a cost. But in reality, I think in the late game, you're always discarding a land, right? You're pretty much always discarding a land. And in Constructed, if you're not discarding a land, you're discarding a card that's irrelevant at this moment, that a random card would be better than.
Potentially even beneficial. I mean, we've got a mechanic just now that benefits from having creature cards in your graveyard. You know, if you ditch a creature early, it could maybe do something with your...
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of cards that...
Undergrowth.
Absolutely. Like, with Undergrowth, definitely those Undergrowth cards have a natural built-in synergy with Jumpstart, because Jumpstart allows you to discard a creature, thus adding to your account for Undergrowth. Then there's also, you know, other cards in Standard that care about graveyards as well. The big one that was on everyone's mind is Search for Azcanta. And being able to cast sort of a flashback card from your graveyard, but actually maintain that number of cards in your graveyard is actually a good thing when it comes to cards like Search for Azcanta. So I think that Jumpstart, to me, is a very strong ability, perhaps one of the best, if not the best.
Let's move it along to Dimir, which is the secret guild, right?
Yes, so Dimir's whole thing is that Dimir is like a guild of spies. Dimir is a guild of sort of trying to manipulate the other guilds into taking some secret sort of actions. It's all about backroom dealings, right?
And their special power is Surveil, which is kind of like...
it's kind of like Scry.
Kind of like Scry. You get to look at the top however many cards of your library, but the ones you don't want, instead of the bottom of your library, you're putting them into your graveyard. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot more potential.
Yeah, I think that Scry is, and these kind of Scry variants, I guess, are some of the best mechanics in Magic also, simply because what everyone wants to do in Magic, right, is you want to play interactive games with your opponent, you want to draw relevant cards at relevant times, and you want to be able to have some selection or some choices about how the game pans out.
Sorry, you don't want to burn them out on turn 4, or...
Well, okay, fine. You can also
Mr.
cast...
Kark Clan Ironworks.
Yeah, I actually have been playing KCI, so yes, you're right.
But back to Surveil,
But, you know, what Surveil does is just really nice, which is that it allows you to sort of manipulate your draws. It's a subtle effect. Most of the cards only have Surveil 1, or maybe Surveil 2, so there's not a lot of huge Surveils going on. But just being able to say, look at your top card, see it's an island, and just say, you know, I don't want an island right now. Put it in your graveyard. Or even on an early turn, you know, looking at your top card, maybe it's a 6-drop or something that's really you're far away from casting, and saying, you know, I don't really want to draw that right now. I'd rather put that in my graveyard, let me draw a random card, probably can draw something a little cheaper. Having that kind of flexibility is just great in both Limited and in Constructed, for sure.
For sure. And you say it's normally 1 or 2, but there is one big Surveiler, right?
Yeah, my favorite card of Surveil on the set is Dream Eater.
Tell us about the Dream Eater.
Dream Eater is so cool. So it is a 6-mana 4/3 flash. When it comes into play, it's Surveil 4, which is the biggest Surveil card that we have in the set. So Surveil 4 is already, I think, very strong. Looking at your top 4, being able to replace them in any order you want, put anyone's in the graveyard that you want, that's almost ensuring that your next draw step is going to be a live card.
Flash and flying?
Flash and flying, yeah. And then as if that wasn't enough, it can also return a permanent to your opponent's hand, a permanent they control to their hand. So those combinations of abilities, to me, make this one of the best finishers for control that we've had in Standard in some time.
Board control, finisher, library manipulation, all in one.
Exactly. I mean, we have seen like some planeswalkers like Teferi, but it's been a while. The last one I can think about is actually Aetherling, which was sort of like a Morphling variant. That was a good one. But this card, to me, being able to play it, Surveil 4, whether it lives or not, and also have that flexibility to kind of bounce stuff too and change the tempo and swing how things are going on the board. To me, those are a great combination of abilities in a single card. A card I would love to open in sealed, for example, but I think will also have a lot of impact in standard for sure.
The Surveil mechanic is also the most synergetic, I'd say, with the other mechanics because it interacts with both Undergrowth and with Jumpstart, right?
Yes, so Surveil, putting cards in your graveyard, you could put a Jumpstart card in there, and you may even put a creature in there for Undergrowth too.
Lots of potential.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of exciting combinations, especially early in the format.
And this brings us to the end of our Guilds of Ravnica mechanics video. Aryeh, thank you once more.
Yeah, it's been fun.
If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel down below, and we will be catching you next time on Knights of the Game Table.